You're watching Safety First, Safety Preparation and Crossing the English Channel. I take this episode to show some preparation work before starting a journey on sea. This is most important if you are planning a long distance away from near shores as it was when we crossed the English Channel from Ouessant to Landsend, which is also theme of this episode. This is a video of my series Adventures with my Trawler Yacht Whitehorse, a Grand Banks 36. Here is a short overview. In the first part of this episode, I will talk about safety preparations to be done before making a trip onto the open sea with a yacht. Topics like planning your trip on your maps, what maps, planning for emergency alternative harbors, checking and understanding weather predictions, looking at significant weight files, legal aspects if crossing a border, fuel bunkering, and checking the boat before starting the journey. In the second part, you will be guest while we experience the crossing of the English Channel, which was the first longer trip on open sea. So let's talk about safety first. It means you have to prepare your trip, and it is one of the most important things you learn when taking the education and exams to be skipper of a boat or ship. Many things can happen when you are on a small boat on the sea. Not all can be foreseen or avoided, but a good and serious preparation is key to lower the risk of yourself and others to get harmed. So today, I would like to look into how I prepared our journey. The planning of the journey as a whole from France to Norway started already before I bought my Grand Banks. It was more of a feasibility study whether it would be at all possible to buy a boat in France and drive it home by myself. The planning got more serious when I had decided to buy this boat in Porte-la-Forêt. I used the nautical maps of OpenSeaMap.org, which have great details and are free available for the whole world. I divided the distance into daily portions of about 8 hours driving and printed one chart for every day. I found that it would take us at least 21 days at sea. Having one rest day every 6 days of travel, it would take at least 24 days. But this implied that the weather was always good and the sea conditions were perfect and the boat would not have any problems. Preparation for the next day's journey starts the evening before. On the boat, I had all the printouts of the charts, so every evening I went through the journey of the next day to get my memory updated. Then I had to check the weather predictions along the route. As I planned to travel about 8 hours a day, this covers about 60 nautical miles or 110 kilometers. I usually checked the weather at the starting point and at the end point. In addition, I checked the predicted wave heights along the route using OpenSeaMap.com. Did you like my video so far? Then I would be grateful for you subscribing free of charge to my YouTube channel to help me finance my work. Thank you. Preconditions for me to keep up planning for the next day was wind of not more than 6 meters per second, which corresponds to 13 to 14 miles per hour or 11.7 knots. Furthermore, I didn't want waves predicted higher than 1 meter. As the wave heights are given as significant heights, it means that statistically 1 in 1,000 waves could be up to 2 meters, and 1 in 100 waves could be about 1.5 meters. When I had a green light from the weather and sea conditions, I checked alternative marinas along the route, especially at the last 30%, as we could have to sail slower than anticipated due to high waves or stronger wind or current against us. Having determined the alternative marinas, it is good to note the phone numbers and VHF frequencies of these marinas. On this special occasion, where we crossed the English Channel and therefore entered the UK, I had to check again the legal rules of law we had to adhere. I already had sent an Excel sheet with our names, passport numbers and planned dates of entry to the National Yacht Line, which is responsible for such entries. I checked again which phone I had to ring when reaching the 12 miles zone, and I checked whether the yellow Q flag was readily available, as we had to raise it when entering the UK. When all these preparations were done, I would have to talk with my mates to explain the planning of the next day. In the morning, before leaving the marina, following checks had to be done. A. Check weather and sea conditions again. B. Check diesel fuel. 8 hours of travel needed about 100 liters, which meant for me 300 liters at least in the tanks, as I wanted to have enough spare fuel. C. Check oil on both engines. D. Check cooling fluid on both engines. E. Check drinking water. This needed not to be done every day, as we filled up if we could. F. When engines run, check for any special noises and whether there is water guzzling out of the exhausts. G. Wait for the engines to be at least 60 to 65 degrees centigrade. That's about 15 to 20 minutes afterwards, before leaving the marina. To measure fuel and check the oil, I had to open the hatch at the floor and crawl down to the engine room. As a result of this planning, we had to change plans. My original plan was to visit Scilly Islands in the UK when coming from France. The weather and sea conditions for Scilly were not good enough. There was considerable wind to be expected. I therefore replanned to use Penzance as first marina in the UK. It would be nearer and the coast would grant some protection from westerly winds. We left Ouessant early, just after 7 a.m., and expected that it would take us about 13 to 14 hours to reach Penzance. The distance was about 108 nautical miles. The weather was good for the crossing, with low winds, good into the afternoon, and significant waves of 50 centimeters to 1 meter. When we had crossed about 1/3 of the channel, a light fog settled on the sea, limiting the sight to approximately 3 to 4 nautical miles, 6 to 8 kilometers. This meant we could see about 30 minutes ahead of our travel and gave us still enough time to change direction if we would meet a larger commercial ship. After having crossed a bit more than half of the channel, we were excited to see our first wild living dolphins about 100 meters west of our boat, and we even managed to get some videos of it. Coming closer to the UK, we had to decide whether it was feasible to advance to Penzance. This harbour has only a smaller part that is protected by a ram gate and offers water under the keel all day. The larger part can run dry on low water. This was a serious problem, as I hadn't reserved any space in the wet dock, and we didn't want our boat to sit on the dry harbour. We therefore opted to head to Landsend, the southern-west point of Cornwall, and search for good anchoring space. Such opportunity was found at Mill Bay near Nanjizal Beach. When we reached the 12 miles zone, I phoned to the National Yacht Line to inform about our entry into the UK. They confirmed having received my file with all necessary details and advised us to hoist the yellow Q flag and have that on until we were cleared at the next harbour. It was a surprisingly easy task, as I had expected to have to explain more. So I did as I was asked for, and we proceeded in direction Mill Bay. We reached Mill Bay just before sunset. At the northern part of this small bay, we found to be in the lee of most waves and could lower our anchor. It did get a good hold in the sandy ground, and we could settle down and get some food. After having done my chores with planning the next day, we soon were withdrawing to our beds. In the next episode, we will travel on to the Cornwall port of Padstow, where we had a difficult time on the river with strong currents against us when waiting for the opening of the harbour gates. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor and like it and subscribe to my channel. It will show me your interest for more of such episodes and help me to grow my base. Goodbye until next time you choose to watch my videos.